Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. My guest today is a wine enthusiast, lawyer, longtime entrepreneur, and OG in the co-working movement, Benjamin Dyett. Benjamin is a partner at Deco Group and is a flexible workplace strategist. The Deco Group is a global co-working consultancy that helps organizations, commercial real estate companies, and asset owners incorporate co-working and flexible office solutions into their workplace and portfolio strategies. He is a current board member and past president of the board of directors for Shelter Manor. And Benjamin is a Rear Commodore of the Shelter Yacht Club. Welcome, Benjamin.
Oh, that sounds so hilarious when you say it.
I know, right? So I like to start at the beginning. And first of all, listeners are like, why are you having this guy on? Well, if you've been following the podcast, you know I like to make it about what wine does, how it brings people together, and you don't have to just be a somm or someone who's in the wine business to be on here. And Benjamin came recommended by Adrian Chalk. If you guys go back a bunch of episodes, remember Adrian Chalk, who represents the main Lalu. He's the fucking guy. He's like, you got to interview my boy Benjamin. He's a friend of mine. He's a great wine drinker. He's a fascinating guy. So that's why. And once we started talking, you already see, like I'm like, what the F is a flexible workplace? What the fuck is a flexible workplace strategist? I did some research. Can't wait to talk about Shelter Manor. That's a great story there. And then want to hear about a Rear Commodore of Shelter Island Yacht Club. And when we're talking, he had a restaurant. So there's just going to be so much to talk about. But I do like to start at the beginning. So where are you from, man?
I'm from White Plains, New York, born and raised.
Westchester County.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Which is very connected to my wine story.
Okay. So but in the beginning, so what was, you're from White Plains proper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like growing up for you in White Plains?
I thought it was, look, it's a good, solid community. It's, fairly diverse, both racially and economically. Mm-hmm. I had a bit of a different experience. My father and both my parents were medical professionals. My father was a doctor. Got it. So we lived in the nice end of town,
Gotcha.
which was all white. Mm-hmm. It was the 60s, it was the 70s, and you kind of had to figure it out yourself.
Yeah. So, so great. So, like, someone interviewed me once, and I was like, like I grew up in Jersey, but like I told them, I was like, my high school was probably 80% white people. So I grew up a little, and I was like in the talented and gifted classes. I was in all the honors class, so it was a little bit different for me. And this was still the 80s, but you still had to figure it out. But the 60s. So this is great. So 60s and 70s. I think of Westchester County. I think of Stepford Wives and all this kind of stuff. But your parents were medical professionals. Your dad was a doctor. So did you go to a public school, or did you actually go to a private school, or?
I spent middle school and high school in private school. Okay. I went to the Hackley School in Tarrytown.
Okay.
That was 95% white.
Yeah.
And I have three older sisters.
Okay.
And my oldest sister went to a different private school in Tarrytown. It was back then. She's 10 years older than me. Mm-hmm. It was called Scarborough School. It doesn't exist anymore. Hackley still exists. It's probably the biggest, most famous private school in Westchester County. Was class of 79. My middle sister was in the first class of women admitted to Hackley. She came in 1970 and graduated in 72 as a valedictorian. My youngest sister, who's 3 years older than me, was ahead of me. And I pulled up the rear in a lot of ways.
So like, now is your family African American? Are they of West Indian? Or like where
Ooh, interesting question. Mixed. My father was raised in Bermuda.
Okay.
His family history really goes back to Montserrat.
Oh shit.
My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was born and raised in Montserrat, which interestingly means that I am part Irish. And I've done my 23andMe. I am 3% Irish. Because Montserrat was an island where they brought in African slaves and they brought in Irish indentured workers, basically Irish slaves.
Right.
And from the late 1600s.
Yeah.
And by the mid 1700s, those two populations were mixing a little bit.
Yeah. No, I'm 33% Irish.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I think my father's grandfather, maternal, was Irish.
Oh.
Then I got my 23andMe, and I'm like as much black as I'm like a third West African and a third Irish, and then a bunch of a couple other things scattered in there.
Well, my maternal side of the family, they're West African.
Yeah.
My grandfather, my actual mother's father, was born and raised in Halifax.
Oh wow, Nova Scotia.
Yeah,
shit.
Because his family escaped.
Wow.
And made it to Canada.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I did my 23andMe, and interestingly enough, my wife is Irish.
Okay.
My wife is 100% Irish.
Mm-hmm.
So our daughter is 51% Irish. She's more Irish than anything.
This is crazy. I have a daughter from my ex who's Irish. She lives in Dublin. She's lived there since she's like 4, and so she's like 90% Irish or something.
Probably.
Yeah. But it's so wild. And the reason why I asked that question is just because, like, when you're talking about, like, I went to law school, and I know you actually graduated, passed the bar. I didn't pass. I graduated and passed the bar, but when I was in law school, so many of the other people of color were like West Indian. Like I know there's there is actually a different ethos when people come from the islands. They come to the United States and they see it more opportunity than a lot of people, us who grew up here, do. So I was just wondering, was there pressure of sister to be at valedictorian, or she just got you got to go be the best? Like there's that whole thing, right?
There was double pressure. I mean, you're right. The West Indians have a true immigrant mentality.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because those are the people that made this country
right
today. But we had my father's Caribbean side.
Yeah.
But my mother, they were just both hardcore education people.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how you get get advanced in this world. This is what you need. You need to do this. You need to excel. And we were push. We all went to college. My middle sister's a doctor. I was a lawyer, so we have 2 graduate degrees between the 4 kids. And that was just because we were just beaten to it.
Yeah. Listen, I love conversation. I dated this woman way back in college, and her family was from Guyana, but they moved to Canada. 10 kids all went to Ivy League schools. Like it was no joke. Like they came home from school and their dad was a teacher. They had homework, and then they had homework. Then they had housework. But all 10 of them went to Ivy League school, or some 2 went to Wesleyan or stuff. I didn't get into. I went to Williams, but like all top flight schools. Ridiculous.
My daughter went to Middlebury.
Did you? Growing up, was your family into wine?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. 60s, they were,
real needy.
They were prosperous, well-to-do black people. They drank cocktails.
Yeah.
They didn't drink wine. My wine story began because my father was the first black physician admitted to practice in hospitals in Westchester County. Damn. And this is 1951. And because of that, he was pretty much an outcast. The racism thing was there. and he didn't have a lot of friends. There was another doctor in the area who also was an outcast, but he was a white guy who was doing a lot of innovative stuff in medicine and doing a lot of experimentation, and they didn't like that.
Right.
So he was considered crazy. His name was Herbert Gould. So he was ostracized because everybody thought he was crazy. My father was ostracized because he was black. So they became friends. Only two people could talk to each other.
Yeah.
And as a result, I ended up growing up in his household. He was really my second father.
Gotcha.
And Herbert, I just spoke to him before I came here, by the way. He's 92.
Oh, man.
I wanted to make sure I got this right. But he formed the Physicians Wine Society.
Okay.
And that was his thing. Big wine guy. He was in Europe after World War II. He was part of the RAF, exchange from America. And he learned all about wine in France and in England and brought all that back, started the Physicians Wine Society, which he had a big, huge cellar that I grew up in since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, he had no qualms about, teaching all of us kids about wine, no matter what age we were. And I literally was raised in his wine cellar. and he went on to be one of the major members of the sous commanderie de New York of the Tastevin, the Burgundian Wine Society, the one that runs Burgundy and owns Clos Vougeot, Chateau Clos Vougeot, and that was in the mid '60s, and so I was even too young to drink then, but he helped expand the Du Tastevin, and when I was a teenager, we were all learning about wine like every day, and it cascaded down to the point when I was old enough. I had finished grad school, started my career. I was probably 30, I don't know, I was 31 maybe. And he basically insisted that I join either the Commanderie de Bordeaux or the Tastevin, or both. And I like Burgundy a lot more than I like Bordeaux, so I took my shot at the Du Tastevin, and I passed the test because there actually is an oral exam in French about Burgundy as part of your application process.
All right. Well, listen. I want to table that. We got it because that's so much. But so it's so funny. Like, so you were exposed to wine as a child, just not at your house. It was your father's friend. Amazing, and I'm sure he has purchased copious amounts of Burgundy at ridiculous prices because the shit was so cheap back in the day. Getting DRC for like $6 a bottle, probably a packet of six.
Herbert, yeah. Mostly, I think he ever paid for a bottle of wine was $20, and that includes 82 Aubryon.
Yeah. People don't. It's a crazy when people come in who are into wine now or getting into wine and they see these prices and don't understand that. It's a bit of a phenomenon. I don't think anyone in Burgundy or Bordeaux had the force like this. We're going to be getting this type of money for these wines. It's just no way, unless someone had like a flux capacitor and they went into the future like Marty McFly and like, oh my God. And then we came back, we're selling the wine too cheap. I go there getting for this now.
Here's a little anecdote, because I was in my cellar the other day trying to pick wine for Thanksgiving. And I was trying to decide between the 2000 Echezot DRC, and I have 90 Echezot as well. That case of 90 Echezot, which I only have a few left, but I bought on release in '92, and I bought it at Astor Wines and Liquors.
Okay.
Walked in the store. It was on the shelf.
Yeah, no freaking, no futures. Just it was on the shelf and said, "Give me a case."
On the shelf, I grabbed it. It was $800, which was a crazy amount of.
Well,
money
and people are like, yeah.
Wine.
What's that got to be worth now?
Oh God,
8,000?
probably. it's probably $5,000 a bottle.
Yeah, I was gonna say way more than that. Yeah, so it's like
So
like
it's $60,000.
That was a hell of a buy.
Yeah.
And what I love though is you see, I don't know if you drank it. I mean, I think anyway we'll talk about, it, but like
I only drink my wine.
The speculation
I
of wine.
sold one case, and I'll tell you about it if you want to hear
Yeah,
about it.
we'll get into that. All right, so you attend the boarding school in Tarrytown, and was that like a stay school, or you drove back, or you were driven back and forth?
Oh, I was a day student.
Day student. Okay.
They have a small 5-day boarding program.
Okay.
Which one of my best friends was part of.
Okay.
Who, still to this day.
Yeah.
Is a dear friend of mine. But I was a day student.
Okay.
Lived in White Plains.
Yep.
And 3 of my sisters went to school there.
Yeah.
And after my youngest sister graduated, my father drove me for a year, and then I could drive myself.
Nice. Okay. Gotcha.
And, we were one of those families. At 16, you get a car.
Yeah. Cool. So where'd you go to college? Where'd you go to school? Where'd you go?
I went to Boston University.
BU. Okay. Yep. So now we're talking. So again, like giving people context of issues in America. What year were you in Boston?
79 to 83.
Okay, right. So that's just a few years after the picture where the guy's trying to stab the brother with the American flag.
Yeah.
Not too long after people throwing bricks at buses. Like, what was it like? What was the atmosphere at BU?
Well, it was a big university, and we were in that little university bubble. The problems you had is when you went outside of the university bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, I had plenty of people Saturday night drunk scream the N-word at me while I'm walking down the street. And my first internship while I was in college, I was really interested in real estate and eventually became a real estate corporate lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to work for a real estate project. One of the old Navy bases was turned over to the city, and they're redeveloping it. It was called Boston Marine Industrial Park. And I went there, showed up for work, and all the interns had to take turns going out to South Boston to get lunch for everybody.
Oh, so they sent you to Southie to pick up lunch. Yeah.
Well, and one of my, my first turn came up, and my boss just said, no, no, you sit down. And I'm like, what?
You're good. You're exempt.
He said, look, probably nothing will happen, but not on my watch.
Right. You don't want to be the manager who got the intern.
We got the intern killed.
Exactly. And there are university bubbles, totally. Like you kind of live in your own world. So why BU? Like just like what attracted you to Boston? Was it the school? Was it, you wanted to be a terrier?
Yeah, I spent my summers, most of my childhood in Cape Cod.
Okay.
My parents had a summer house in Cape Cod.
Okay.
And so every fall, every spring, my mother would pack up all the stuff, and we'd all drive up to the Cape for the summer. And so I grew up there.
And was that like in the Inkwell part, or just
a little bit, not like Oak
proper.
Bluffs,
right? Yeah.
Not as intense as that.
Yeah.
We had some friends in New York. My father knew a doctor who was part of the Indian tribe on Cape Cod.
Okay.
The Wampanoags. Mm-hmm. And that's where the Wampanoag Reservation is.
Okay. Wow.
And they had a house there, and they were looking around. My father wanted more than anything else in his life to have a house in Martha's Vineyard. That was his thing. Mm-hmm. But since he was running a hospital, he used to be director of medicine at White Plains Hospital. He started
at the bottom, now here, right?
Yeah. But if there was a problem, he had to be able to get in his car and drive back to White Plains.
Yeah.
And because flights were
few
and far between back then in 1969. So we had to be on the mainland.
Yeah.
And so the next best thing for them was be next to his friend, Dr. Solitz, who was part of the Wampanoag Indian tribe. And but when it came to BU, I went to such a small, intense private school that I couldn't take that anymore.
Right, so you're in a city campus.
I wanted to be anonymous. That was my thing. Mm-hmm. What school will give me the most anonymity?
So you mentioned that you were into real estate. What was your major at BU?
Oh, I was a political science major. Okay. I'm a history guy. I love history, and that was my thing. I spent a lot of time studying Middle Eastern geography and politics, and that was also a ticket to go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's poli-sci major in law school.
Yeah, that was the thing. I was saying, yeah, so you kind of knew you were going to go to law school if you majored in poli-sci.
Well, if you really want to know.
Yeah, I do. So next one I was like, why law school? I'm just always curious.
My father obviously wanted me to be a doctor.
Yep.
Luckily, my middle sister, the head
Satiated that for him. Yeah,
took that off.
Yep.
You know, she went to Harvard and Yale Med School.
Oof.
So I didn't have to do it.
Right.
And I kind of woke up towards the end of college. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I can go to grad school or get a job. Medical school, no thanks. Job, no thanks. So that left law school.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I went to law school.
That was kind of like my logic too. I was like, I'm not ready to get a job. And you know, it's like I tell you, it's a smart person's PhD. It's a smart person's doctorate degree. It's 3 years.
Yep.
It's a Juris Doctor. It's a doctorate degree.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have 3 more years to figure out what you want to do
Exactly.
with your life.
Yeah. No. So where did you go to law school?
NYU.
Okay. So wow. So you Boston. You said I need a bigger city. And what was that? So let's back up. So at BU, was you involved? Were you the smooth guy on campus drinking wine, or you just did the kind of college thing, drank beers, go to a party?
I was doing the college thing.
Yeah.
I was never a beer drinker, so that was all fake.
Okay.
But I drank a little wine, but mostly I was just having an American college experience.
Gotcha. All right. So you arrive at NYU, and did they have campus housing for law school, or were you just living in? Where were you living when you moved to New York?
I lived in the law school has housing for
Okay.
all students. So I lived on Washington Square West.
Wow.
They own that. They used to own that building. Since then, they've given it to the undergraduate program, and they built other housing for law students. But I lived right on Washington Square West.
Nice.
You know, we used to sit up studying and doing other things.
Yeah.
Looking out the window.
Looking out the window.
Watching the police beat
And-
the crap out of people in
Yeah,
Washington
exactly.
Square Park.
You know, go down, hopefully not get ripped off by the Rastas down there. Oh my God! And this is the '70s. This guy. So you're talking like punk rock New York. Like that's like.
Well, it was the 80s.
Okay, the '80s. Okay, so
we were sort of at the end of
you're at
that.
the end of the whole CBG. Yeah, the CBG. Yeah.
Oh, I spent some time there.
Yeah. And did you start doing anything with wine or drinking wine in law school?
No, I certainly was collecting on a very low minor level just because I knew about it.
Okay.
And I had a place to put it. I could
Okay.
always put it in Dr. Gould's cellar. And but I wasn't fully into it then.
Okay.
Not until later.
Okay. And you say collecting, like, what were you? Were you just a Francophile, just getting French stuff, or had you ventured out into other areas, or?
Back then, it was really Burgundy and Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Took a run at joining the commandery, but there's only so much you can do in this world, and at some point, you just need to pick one.
Yeah. No.
And I joined the du Tastevin first.
Yeah.
So the Confrérie was my place. Confrérie du Chevaliers du Tastevin.
Okay. And so, did you have a focus in law school? Like, were you a biz orgs type guy? Had you figured out what you wanted to do? Kind of.
You don't really major, but you certainly towards
You
the end
concentrate.
can
Yeah, you
take-
concentrate. Yeah.
concentrate. So I took a lot of real estate business classes.
Yeah.
That was my concentration.
Yeah. I was international law just because I like the professors. International professors were really fun and cool, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I don't know if I think I was going to get a job at the UN or something, but anyway. All right, so you graduate. Obviously, you grew up in New York, so you took the New York bar. I take it. Okay, passed the bar first go around.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I did was I took a job in Connecticut.
Okay.
Because I thought for some reason at that moment I wanted to go back towards home.
Okay.
Mistake. I went and I worked at the biggest law firm in the state of Connecticut.
Oh, which one was that one?
Cummings and Lockwood back then.
It was that down in Stanford?
Yeah, Stanford.
Okay.
10 Stanford Forums.
Yeah. I remembers it very well.
But, I spent a year there, hated it. ended up shifting to a small boutique firm in New York,
Okay.
which was good. I learned a lot there. It was only 20 lawyers, but very intense.
What was their focus?
Corporate real estate.
Okay, corporate real estate. Okay. All right.
Learned a lot. There were some evil partners. Yeah, I had the whole experience.
That's so funny. I mean, like, there is always like every TV show where there is like the evil partner, right? And there's some truth to that. Just how it's
Then after that, I went to work for a British law firm.
okay.
Very big in London. It was back then. It was called Berwin Leighton. It's merged a bunch of times since then. But I joined the New York office, which is only 2 lawyers.
Wow.
In London, it was about 1,500 lawyers, and we built that practice to about 20 attorneys before I jettisoned out of there. And but I left and I went to work for our biggest U.S. client, and we didn't have a lot of U.S. clients. I mean, our purpose was to manage the legal life of the English client's interest in America.
Got it. Okay.
That was kind of our job, which is how I met my wife.
Okay.
I met my wife in London. I was over there on firm business.
Was she also an attorney or?
No, she was in advertising.
Oh, okay.
A friend of mine from Hackley was going to London School of Economics at the time, and I would go to London for work, and I knew no one. And I knew one person from my high school, and I just go hang out with her. Right? And she had become friendly with my wife through her boyfriend.
Okay.
Because her boyfriend and my wife grew up together.
Okay.
And so I met my wife one night at her apartment.
Nice. It's like it's a total like young people's movie. You meet someone at a party, a friend's house. I love it. And so that boutique firm, so you were living in Manhattan at the time. That firm, obviously the London firm was located here. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you go to work for their client. Was that client also New York based? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big New York real estate firm.
Okay. And so, what did you do for them? Were you like lead counsel, or what were you kind of like doing for them?
I was of counsel, but
Okay.
I was really there to work on a special project. We had a big, huge government contract.
Okay.
A lot of your listeners will not remember this, but there used to be a huge real estate problem and mortgage problem back in the late 80s, early 90s. And the government formed what was called Resolution Trust.
Was that out of the savings and loan shit?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, you guys don't remember that. That was
RTC.
Yeah.
Resolution Trust Corporation.
Yep.
So we were hired to manage portfolios for the government, and that's what I went to do. And we did that for a couple of years. We managed them, packaged them, sold them off for the government. And
so the government was in on the whole REITs thing. Like there's this cyclical. See, people think there's really nothing new under the sun. Like it's just the delivery systems change, but like the basic strategies of wealth building have never changed.
It's all about justice. Just us.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Right. I mean, like, oh. So okay, yeah. So if you're a younger listener, because I got listeners of all ages, but I think a lot of people are in the pocket, like my age, or a fair amount. So they get the references. My pop culture references aren't so good from my younger listeners. So hopefully you learn something. You go like, oh, yeah. Like interest rates that people don't even know. Like interest rates in the 70s were like 15% on a mortgage. People are bitching about 6%, 6.5%.
My first apartment, my interest rate was 12 something. First apartment I bought, and that was good.
Right? Yeah, you're like, phew. I'm not paying 17%. No, literally, it was like, it's insane. So, okay. You're working for this client. You're doing this. You're managing the mess that the savings loan made. What was kind of like your next step in your real estate career?
Well, that project, ran its course. I mean, we had all these assets, and we got rid of most of them.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get rid of all of them. So my next step was to take the stuff we couldn't sell for love or money, and I left with a partner, and we started a little real estate company and managed those assets.
Okay.
And did that for 8 years. And we sold out of that 8 years later, and then I went on to do some entrepreneurial stuff I always wanted to do. For instance, back to bring up the restaurant again.
Yeah.
I always wanted to own a restaurant. Big sort of amateur chef, certainly done a lot of training. And I wanted to own a restaurant, so I opened one. It was a bit of a midlife crisis, I'll give you that. And I keep telling my wife, I said, look, it could have been a blonde in a convertible.
Yeah. Right. I had this image of when you said open restaurant, the Michael Clayton, the Mike George Clooney movie where he played the lawyer and he opened the restaurant with his brother. He's like, yeah, midlife crisis. Every lawyer wants to own a restaurant.
Well, I was foolish enough to do it. We had a great wine list. Actually, Adrian helped me build the wine list.
Okay.
That's how far back we go.
Yeah. Wow.
And we won the award for the best new restaurant in the Hamptons.
Oh shit!
Because it was.
What was the name of your restaurant? And what years were this?
It was 1 year.
1 year.
At the end of that year, my wife was, "You're done." She goes, "Hope you had a good time. You're done." It was called Slip 23.
Okay.
It was in Shelter Island, New York.
Yep.
Which is where I live.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So, because I do have I think a lot of people have become enamored with the restaurant business and even the wine business, particularly now because you first started with Food Network, but then now there's even Som TV and it makes it look so glamorous.
No, it's brutal.
Yeah, but yeah. So
brutal.
here you are a seasoned professional, and I think what people don't I'm not saying that skill sets necessarily carry over, but a restaurant's a business, and you did a lot of business deals, right? So you understand P&L. You're not just I'm a chef. I'm a restaurant. Like you understood what you're going into. How freaking hard was it, man?
Oh, the margins are so thin. It's I don't know how people make money in restaurants. And staff, they work hard. They're great. I mean, my front of the house staff was amazing.
Yeah.
But you're basically giving people these jobs that are really hard, long hours, really low pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Totally. That's so. I've been listening to a lot. Bourdain clips, whatever, on social media because I just finished the book about that his producer wrote about him, and he talks about it. But there's this one clip. He's like, you think you want to be in the restaurant business, you need to go, anywhere. He's like, Olive Garden, I don't care. And you go work there for a month and then see if you still want to be in the restaurant business, right? Right? Because, like you said, you go to the CIA, you can go to the Cordon Bleu, you're making minimum wage, and you're getting hollered at.
And it's
and that's the
brings
business
out the worst in people. Even good people go wrong.
Yeah, he's like, either you like the hot, the fast pace, the cursing, the tension, or you don't. There's two type of people in the world. So I think when I see people say, I for one I've worked in a restaurant as a som and I was in California. But when I grew up in Jersey, I worked with this guy. I was like, no, I'll be back of the house. I didn't want to be front of the house. I wasn't gonna wait. I didn't want to wait on people because I didn't want to take their abuse. Being black too, be the only black waiter in this restaurant on the river in Jersey. I knew I was gonna get the shit. I wasn't even trying to have it, And I hear these experiences of people in these fine dining restaurants and. I had a guest, Victoria James, and she worked at one. She was a som, and like what the guests say, how they talk to the servers, and there's no, and at that level, the customer's right.
Yeah,
the customer's right.
But it'll make you never talk to somebody like that again.
Exactly. So it's funny. The wife shut it down. So
this wine's not bad.
Yeah, it's opening up, right?
Yeah. Really is.
No, I will say Washington State wines, and I was just actually in Walla Walla for the first time, and their Bordeaux stuff is. I mean, you go back to Leonetti and some of the origins. Their Bordeaux stuff is good, and their Rhone stuff is good. I've had a decent Chardonnay. I've never had a Pinot from Washington. I know it's out there. I've never had one. You know, somebody listening who makes Pinot in Washington, if you want to send me a bottle or two, please do. But yeah, no, it's not bad at all.
This one has good structure. It's a little too juicy berry for me.
Yeah. Well, it gets.
That's just me.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it does get. It's hot there, you know, and so. But like I said, this is 14, but I do get the structure. I'm getting some pencil lead.
Yeah. Getting a tiny bit of licorice, but
yeah, a little bit of licorice, and you know. All right, so you worked with your partner managing these things you couldn't sell for like 8 years, and then you sold that off, and then you did some entrepreneurial work. You opened the restaurant, and then after that, the kibosh got put on that.
Then I did a few other things. I started an alcoholic cider company with a friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
The thing about entrepreneurs, at least good ones, is they're 10 or 15 years ahead of their time.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, no, it's yeah.
And we were a little early.
Yeah, I mean now it's like it's a thing.
Yeah, and we had an amazing product, but like everybody's like, what? But that was fun.
Was that from like apples and pears from like New York or
no, Vermont.
Vermont, okay.
We actually had it made for us in Vermont.
Oh, I bet that was really good, man.
Yeah. Dude. It was actually made for us by Woodchuck.
Wow.
It was a really great product. It's too bad. 10 years later, it would have been an amazing product.
Yeah. That is true, though. I think people don't understand, like, there's like the first one through the door gets shot or punched in the face. Like it is a balance of being like this visionary, but also having your timing right. Yeah. You know? So you had your own cider. See, now I love these stories, right? Because there's sometimes conversation like we need more, minority people doing this and that. But like you were just doing it. Like you're like, I want to open a restaurant. You open a restaurant.
I grew up at a time in a socioeconomic place where we were just told to do it. We were like, don't worry about the racial stuff. You just be the best that you can be and just do it.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was raised that way too. I'm like at the end of that generation. It was just like, I'm just out here trying to be the best at what I do, And it was never a thought like I needed to see someone who looked like me. I knew what I want to do. I'm like, I could look at anything. I could look at a movie with, Tom Cruise and be like, I want to be a pilot. I didn't have to, and there's tons of great black pilots, but I didn't have to see. I was like, oh, that's cool. Look at that. I want to do that. That was just kind of my mentality.
There also was no other option.
Yeah.
Those were the only role models.
Yeah, exactly. So like when you look for them, so there's a lot to be said for both sides of that. But I think I tell people all the time when they ask me about racial, I'm like, I was raised really well. Like I can't control other people, so I had to focus on what I can control, which was me.
There's an old Buddhist proverb that roughly, I'm going to paraphrase it and butcher it to death, but it's stop trying to control the storm, or stop trying to calm the storm. Calm yourself. Mm-hmm. The storm will pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So she had a cider company.
Which is wine, by the way.
Right. Fermentation. That's all it is. Yep.
It's wine.
Yep.
It's apple wine.
Yep. It's true. And I love a good cider, man. I got some cider at home from France. Like there's but Vermont, I could see Vermont making some great cider.
Yeah, most of it, the other stuff came out too sweet. Ours was a really nice, dry, lightly bubbly. Mm-hmm. It was really good.
You should bring it back, man.
My wife would not allow that.
We could make it work. We got the team.
Like with my restaurant, she said, "You're done, or we're done."
Well, you know that one. If Mama ain't happy, nobody's happy, right?
Nope.
Well, this is probably a good time to take a quick break. I'll be back with more Benjamin. We're going to dive into some crazy wine and sailing stuff, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So you mentioned few minutes ago that you started collecting when you were in law school. So you also mentioned you bought your first place and it was 12% mortgage rate. Did you really start to buy wine once you bought your first apartment? What would you say? How did the progression of you as a wine enthusiast and collector go?
Oh, it goes back before then. When I was a teenager, because I was in Dr. Good's cellar drinking and buying stuff I liked and sticking it in there.
Okay, so you said that, yeah. So you actually had was it like, did everybody have their little tags so you knew who's what was what, or you had your little section of the cellar?
I had a little pallet in the corner of the cellar.
Okay.
And he said, put wherever you want over there.
Okay.
And, I'm sure there was a wine tax.
Right. Yeah. Well,
He's looking around for something to drink. He's like, oh, that looks good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Wine tax.
Yeah. I got wine taxed by a buddy of mine. I was out in California in April, and I was at a hospice to run, and a bunch of people gave me bottles. And I was like, stayed with a buddy, and I was like, and he's like, yeah, I'll ship that to you. And I just got back out there.
Get back 11
There was 2 bottles left. I had 6 bottles. There was 2 bottles left. And I was like, oh, okay. And he just kind of laughed. I laughed. His wife like, I told him not to do it. I was like, yeah, I knew it was happening. Wine tax. Yep. All right, so you started your collection then, and like you said, you're a Burgundy man.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get into. Go ahead.
I am the first black member of the Du Tastevin.
Du Tastevin. There you go.
The Chevalier, no, the Confrérie du Chevalier. Can't speak today. I don't know why. The Confrérie du Chevaliers du Tastevin.
Okay.
I joined in 1994, 5, something like that.
Man. Wow.
And I was the first black member of the New York chapter.
Wow.
And that was never discussed. That never came up.
Right. Like I find that interesting because like even people are like, why the black wine guys? Like I just try to make it easy on my white friends. Like you don't have to be like, who was that guy? I think he went to law school. He knew a lot about wine. It's like back in the night, I was like, I was the only black dude there. So just say, who's the black dude? I like drinking with him. Like just so, but like.
Well, my claim to fame is the copycats that came after me are guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's now a member of the Tastevin. I blazed the way for him.
That's right. Look at that. How you like me now? Yeah, that's kind of wild, right? And I do try and understand and I've had some stuff going on. Like you said, you were in Boston. People, you had your share of N-words growing up, and it was going on, and I just had an incident a couple of weeks ago in the city, like just crazy. But I never had been to a wine thing where I felt uncomfortable. I like people figured if I was there, I had a certain level of knowledge and they would talk to me, So what was it like for you? Like, so like, there's a whole test. So like, first of all, this seems like something you would have to be nominated for. You have to know someone to get in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's invitation only.
Yeah, okay.
And, I knew enough people through Dr. Gould.
Yeah, okay.
And he was one of the major members
Gotcha.
of the Tastevin, and I was his protege.
Yeah, okay.
But I still had to pass the test.
Sure.
And, the membership committee's there, and then they got these questions they're thrown at you, and most of them you have to answer in French. And
damn,
I'm not a French speaker. I'm a Spanish speaker.
Yeah, dude, I'd be out.
I had to learn all that stuff. But I went to law school. I can learn stuff fast.
It's true. As far as you said, do you find? Because I found for me, like the ability to do research that I learned from law school and real research, like you didn't. Like we had Westlaw and Nexus was. Because I went 93 to 96, so it was just coming on. But you only got like an hour a semester on it. Like it was very limited. Versus like now people can do research just on Google. But like having to shepherdize case and everything, like do you think
a little PTSD?
Sorry. Yeah. do you think like there is something in the training of legal research that helps you distinguish notes and wines?
Yeah, it is a way of thinking that you're trained, and that's all law school is. They teach you how to think and how to take tests. But you can apply that to other things. I mean, for instance, law school ruined my ability to read. people pleasure read. They go to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do that because, I was trained to read every word very slowly and dissect it and parse it. And that's not pleasure reading.
It's not. You're looking for the mistake. You're looking for the opening.
Yeah.
No,
it ruined reading for me. I haven't read books since law school. I love Audible though.
Yeah, I love Audible, man. Hands free, hands busy, mind free time. Anyway, so you passed the test. You're in, and did you say? I don't want to step out. That Society, the Tastevin, they own Clos Vougeot?
Oh, the chateau.
The chateau.
Yeah, that is surrounded. They actually own the building. That's their headquarters.
Shit.
That's where they hold their big party for the Hospice de Beaune.
Okay.
In Clos Vougeot.
So there's people who know it, but for people, have you ever been to Hospice de Beaune?
Yeah.
Of course you have. So tell people what Hospice de Beaune is.
Oh, wow. Trois Glorieuses. The 3 glorious days. It happens in November. Normally in Burgundy, the harvest is mid-September.
Okay.
They sort of get everything fruit juice pressed, barreled, whatever. But what they do during the Hospice de Beaune is, that's the hospital in Beaune. It's owned by a bunch of nuns. And various vineyards donate portions of their harvest to the hospital. And various winemakers produce that wine. And the hospital then auctions off that wine.
Got it.
In mid-November. And there's 3 days of craziness that goes on. I mean, literally. I mean, you're out doing barrel tastings at 6:30 in the morning. And the parties at night. It's just nonstop insanity.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart. People, it's...
And then the Tastevin throws a big party at the Clos Vougeot, and it's 600-700 people for dinner. It's nuts, but a lot of fun, and you need to sleep when you're done.
That's crazy. So back to your cellar, which you were, was kept at Dr. Gould's. When did you acquire your first space that you had your own wine cellar? Let's put it that way.
Well, before that, I ended up having too much wine to leave at his house.
Yeah, I was
so
figuring,
much of it would
exactly.
probably get drunk by other people.
You like
So I shipped it to commercial storage.
Okay.
And I put it in a wine warehouse. And I really didn't have I had a wine fridge at home, Cave. But, that can be anywhere from 50 bottles to 300 bottles.
Yeah.
But
which I know a lot of you think that's a lot of wine, but not if you're a collector. It's just not a lot.
No, because you want to browse and peruse
Right.
and have choices.
Yeah.
But I lived in New York City, and I didn't have
Yep.
room to store lots of wine. But I bought a house in Long Island. Okay. My kid, she was 1, so 1999.
Okay.
And we built a wine cellar in the basement of the house. We renovated it. 2 years later, we did a big renovation, and we built a big wine cellar. And my wine's been there ever since.
How many bottles?
I have no idea. Drives my wife crazy. He's like, why don't you inventory it? I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I'd rather just wander around and find something.
That is a big part of the pleasure. I see people I can understand the need to catalog your wine cellar, but half the fun when you love wine, is just meandering. I was out in Washington and went into this wine store, and I just wanted to meander. And then I was like, then they realized who I was, just that I was out there to do a podcast and knew a bunch of their friends are winemakers. But literally, I'm like, dude, I go in a store, and if it's a good one, I just want to meander for a while. I just want to just go around and like, oh, they got this. Oh, look at that.
And does it lead to stuff going bad? Yeah, of course you skip things you should have drank 20 years ago. But you know what? Wine tax.
There you go, right? You want to pay, you got to play. And I fortunately don't have that much wine. I have a regular cellar. A couple years ago, you'll appreciate it. My wife bought me this wine rack. It's just like a little wooden rack, and she's like, "Here's for your wine, right?" So I put it together. She thought it was because I have boxes and boxes, because plus when I started podcasts, people started sending me stuff. And so like I filled up the rack and there was still just tons of boxes. She's like, they only held 84 bottles. I was like, you thought that was gonna hold all the wine that's down here?
Yeah.
You know? So in that cellar of yours, we've established you're a Burgundian guy, a Burgundy man. Not so much a Bordeaux, but like, is it mixed? I mean, what do you?
It's very mixed. I mean, also over the years, I mean, I have a lot of Bordeaux. Make no mistake.
Okay.
And a lot of it I got through, Dr. Gould and his friends. I mean, I have a lot of Bordeaux from the '60s and '70s, and it's not my thing, so I don't drink it. And it's been sitting there for 20 years.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, I love Tempranillo. I've really moved out into the world in wine. But in the early days, I was drinking. If I wasn't drinking Burgundy, I was drinking Bordeaux, and that was it.
I mean, it's not a bad life drinking Burgundy and Bordeaux, but I love so many things else. But I mean, if I had the Burgundies you have, I would just be like kicking back. And white Burgundies too, just red.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I got to look into those. There's a couple of cases I got to check to make sure they're okay, but they wine tax.
Yeah. So let's kind of commingle some things. So you had a sounds like you had a pretty successful career working as a commercial, like a real estate lawyer, attorney. Then you did some entrepreneurial things, and then as I started out, like you're now like an expert in the co-working space.
Yes, theoretically. I refer to myself as an OG.
Yes, an OG.
I operated one of the first premium shared workspace in New York City. I started my company when WeWork started, and so Adam and I started the industry in New York together.
Okay.
And he did what he did. We grew. We had four large spaces here in Manhattan, one in Chicago, and it was very based on building the community in a really not opulent, but a professional setting. And I did that for 7 years, and that was about as long as I've done anything. And it was time for me to go.
So you said you started. So Alex's WeWork, which there's been like 3 or 4 movies about now, or
well, if you read the books about WeWork, I wasn't in any of the movies. I'm in most of the books.
Okay.
I get a mention here and there.
So you were like a rival
in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
So like, I would love to get your space. So because like, he turned out it was like a Ponzi scheme, and
oh yeah, he was a crook.
Yeah, he was a crook, but like he.
And we knew that in the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for you as someone who like had real estate law practice and all, come from this background, you see this guy, and from what I got to read the books, I'll pick him on Audible. But he was like a charlatan. He was like, he spoke all this flowery language. He was like mixing like fake Buddhism and karmism and all this stuff together, and like people were throwing money at that dude.
Yep, that was Adam. And look, I don't know how he walked away with.
And then he walked away.
Hundreds of millions.
Yeah, and then he walked away. Got to keep the jet and like $700 million, some crazy shit.
Yeah.
When he tanked the company, like they still gave him like that's some smooth shit, man. Yeah. That's some charismatic shit.
I mean, it's like snake oil stuff.
Yeah.
But it happened, and that was his life. I could not sleep at night doing stuff like that. It's not who I am. And we built a really great business. That was a lot of fun to run for a long time. I think I had more fun doing that than anything I've done.
And what was it about that? Was it that you felt like you were supporting entrepreneurs? What was so fun about that project?
It's that, but it's the people. Mm-hmm. We had 3,000 members, and I was the original community manager. Working with the people every day, working with those entrepreneurs every day. And, a lot of those companies are out there and thriving, and that all started at my space.
That's awesome.
So I'm proud of that.
Yeah,
proud of that.
That's really great. So you have some expensive habits: wine, and then yachting. So like,
Yachting sounds so bizarre.
I know, right? Because that's a joke. Like, brother, we ain't got on boats since they brought us over. We're not too fond of boats, unless you're fond of boats. So when did you kind of catch the yachting bug?
Cape Cod. I grew up in Cape Cod, as I mentioned, in the summers. It really happened when I was the fourth of four kids. My parents at one point decided they were tired of raising children and wanted to send me to boarding school.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I was like, yeah, I'm not going. So they spent a lot of time thinking of all these tricks. And one of their tricks was, since we were in Cape Cod, they sent me to a school called Tabor Academy, which is the big New England sailing school. It's in Marion, Massachusetts, just across the bridge from Cape Cod. So they can send me there for the summer. They can spend their summer in Cape Cod. And that's where I learned to sail. And at the end of the summer, I called them and was like, this was great. Love sailing. Yeah, well, when are you picking me up? And they were like, well, we kind of enrolled you in school. And I was like, no. I was like, you're either picking me up or I'm hitchhiking home. So, but my takeaway from Tabor was sailing.
Okay.
And, it was hard to rustle it up over the following years, but I did.
Okay.
And I went sort of hardcore on it when I first came to Shelter Island. I came to Shelter Island, where I live, to race in a one design 30-foot racing boat fleet they have there. They're called Etchels, if anybody knows. But I've been racing Etchels there for 30 years.
So is Etchels like, okay, so not everybody, but a lot of people, and I have cognizant, how old I'm, the America's Cup. Yeah. What size are those boats compared to these Etchels you're talking about?
These days, well, there's GP40s, and then there's the 75s, which are going to be the final boat they compete in.
Okay.
But an Etchels is a 30-foot boat.
Okay.
But the Etchels is traditionally the boat that all the America's Cup teams train on.
Okay.
That's what they train on before they go on to do the American side. It's super Olympic professional. It's a tough boat to sell.
I was wondering, because 30, so I would think 75 feet would be tougher to control. So there must be something inside of that 30-foot boat, like you said, that you've learned all the skills or something, like.
The thing about Etchels is everything's adjustable. Everything. Okay. And that's what makes it hard to sell.
Okay.
Yeah. And but we have a great fleet in Shelter Island, and we run a lot of regattas. We just did the New England Championship at the club. So it's just a great fleet. It's kept me interested and happy for 30 years.
So what's a Rear Commodore?
I can't believe you pulled this off my... I should take this off my...
This is all you LinkedIn, man. This is all LinkedIn.
Because they hate being talked about. But I've been a part of the yacht club since I came 30 years ago.
Okay.
I joined the club 25 or 26 years ago. I was the first black member of Shelter Island Yacht Club.
That's the theme. Like, I'm the first black guy who did this, and I'm the first black guy who did that.
And I'm proud. I've never even looked into that. I wonder if I'll be the first black Commodore of a,
That's interesting.
Near the top tier yacht club.
Yeah, shit.
But basically, the officer track has 5 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You start as the secretary of the club for 2 years, then you run as the treasurer of the club for 2 years, and for each position, the membership has to vote you in. And then there's the Rear Commodore piece, and I run 2 committees at the club as Rear Commodore, and I have 1 more year to go, and then I become the Vice Commodore, and I run 4 committees at the club, and I have to be voted in for my next spot, and then I have to be voted in as Commodore. So in 3 years, if all goes well, I'll be voted in as Commodore of the club. And basically, it's a CEO of the yacht club.
Gotcha. That's cool, man.
It's a wonderful community.
Yep.
And
It's about community, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I think when we talk about diversity, it's finding the right community.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's kind of like it all fits together. It's like wine. The Tastevin. I was the first black member of the Tastevin. we never talked about that.
Yeah.
We're like, you like wine?
Yeah.
You get this? You know this? You know that? Fine, you're in.
Right.
Shelter Yacht Club was like, oh, you like to sell? You can sell naturals? You've done well the last bunch of years? Oh, you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty it's interesting how things unfold for people, and I think a lot has to do. We talked about this context and your perspective going into a situation is really can really help shape the outcome. So let's talk about because you mentioned that your parents' house was part of Indian land, or
it was next to the
adjacent to it.
reservation.
Okay. And then talk about Sylvester Manor, because I Googled that after I saw that on your LinkedIn, and you like said you were the past president of the board of directors and you're a current board member. So what is Sylvester Manor?
Ooh, super interesting place, and I'm always amazed every day that nobody knows this stuff.
Yeah.
Sylvester Manor used to be all of Shelter Island. It was a provisioning plantation for the sugarcane plantations in Barbados that the family owned. The Sylvester family. And they used to grow food there for the boats going back and forth from America to the Caribbean. And they used to grow food for the slaves in the plantation. But Sylvester Manor was the largest slave plantation in the Northeast. Jesus. And nobody knows this.
I listen. I was like, he's got to talk about it. It's like, nobody does know that.
No, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating because it was in the same family for 350 years. It was their homestead. And I had a friend who was close with one of the nephews of the family. When the final matriarch died in 2006, it went to a guy who lived in California, who was a great guy. But he lived in California. His life was there. He was one of the early animators at Pixar. He was living in California. He didn't need this. Right?
Early animator at Pixar is good to go. Good to go.
And he was fairly involved, and he loves the thing. It's his family's homestead, whatever. But the nephew wanted to start a farm, started farming again there, because he went to Middlebury and started the organic farm there. And he had not a lot of business sense, and so our mutual friend brought him to me. And I said, okay, this is cool. I can help with this. I can do the business stuff. So we started a CSA. We started farming. It was really hard. And a couple of years later, we formed a not-for-profit. And then a couple of years later, we got the guy in California to give the whole thing to the not-for-profit.
Oh, nice.
What was he going to do with it? Right. And so now we have this not-for-profit that has 250 acres and a manor house and all the artifacts from the family, and there's a huge slave graveyard there, and there's a Native American graveyard there. And we've started doing archaeological digs. Well, actually, the matriarch before she died started that. So we have a partnership with UMass Boston, the archaeological department there, and they come and run digs every year. And the stuff we found over the last 15 years is just incredible. There's this thing called the pot that they dug up probably 20 years ago. Maybe less than that, 15. But it is this pot that is baked like they used to bake pottery in Africa.
Okay.
And it has adornments that are very Native American, and it has a handle, which is European. Mm-hmm. And it brings all three cultures together in this one thing. And it's up at UMass Boston. They bring it down to show it to us every now and then.
Oh, so kind of the deal is like they dig the artifacts and then they go put them on display.
Yeah. But it is really beginning to take off. We have received a small grant from Mellon Foundation last year, and they've become enamored with the work we're doing on the history and heritage side. We've just started a partnership with the Shinnecock Nation in Long Island, because those were all their people. Some of them are buried there, and that was their summer camp, actually, before the Sylvester showed up. So they're very interested in being involved in how the whole thing is preserved, and we're about to start work on the the manor house, which the original manor house was built in the 1650s. We're not sure what happened to it, but the new one was 1732. And we think the
Wow.
old one is underneath the new one.
Wow.
Because back then, you didn't have Home Depot.
Yeah.
You wanted to build something new, you just took down the old one and used that stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So, like, can someone, like, go tour it? I mean, are you guys...
Yeah. In the summer.
In the summer, yeah.
And we have a farm stand and a huge CSA program and an 8-acre farm, organic farm that is very active. And we're building all the history and heritage programs up again. We have a summer camp for kids. I mean, it's pretty active. But the time to come to see the manor house and some of the artifacts is in the summer.
Okay. That's incredible. So let's talk about we need to do a Black Wine Guy event out there, man. That's what I'm thinking. We could do some.
Works for me.
Yeah. You know.
Oh, we can get some of the vineyards out there to come play.
Yeah.
That's easy.
That'd be really fun.
We have those relationships for all the events. We have concerts on the property, and we bring the wineries in. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm trying to get some of this DRC, y'all. Don't be mad at me.
Well, that's at my house. So before or after?
Yeah,
the Black Wine Guy
exactly.
event, we can go to my house.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So, the wine. Going back to the wine. So, you go to Hospice de Beaune. You're probably fairly regularly, I would say. You've attended a decent amount of times. What are some of like your memorable wine experiences? Like, starting back with the doctor. Like, what are some of your memorable wine? Like, give us like a wine timeline for you.
Oh God, let's see. When I started, the first, he taught me a lot about German wine to start.
Okay.
Because it's such a range. When you just stick to the QMP, the Qualitätswein mit Predicate.
Yep.
You start with Cabernet, very dry, Riesling. Then you go to Spätlese, Auslese, Beerenausschler, Trockenbeer and Auslese, and then Einswein, which is the wine that's left on the
Noble rot. It freezes.
Yeah, Noble rot.
Yep, freezes. The berries, they get like one drop of juice out of everything.
And so that's where he started me. It's like everything's right here.
I think that's brilliant though, because even to this day, I tell people, I go to these things, Riesling study. You got to come to a Riesling study event. It's just crazy. It's all Riesling. Working retail, you'd say Riesling. People are like, oh, I don't want anything sweet. People don't understand. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of brilliant. That does take you through the full range of wines.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That's brilliant. He started there. So, that's really interesting.
And Spätlese and Auslese are just wonderful.
Oh my God, give me some foie gras. Oh, good Lord. Oh, give me some spicy food.
Mm-hmm.
They're perfect. I just think I think that's it's so funny you talk about being part of these wine societies you're in and everything. But there's a lot of people when they start drinking wine, they think sweet wine is bad wine. And like no. Auslese, Spätlese, Sauternes.
And then there's everything that's going on in Austria.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, and Austria was nothing back then. I'm sure. It was nothing. But they run the same gamut. They do the same thing. All right. So he started you there with German wines, and then kind of how did it? What was the next lesson for his protégés?
Well, interestingly enough, it was a lot of Bordeaux.
Okay.
Back then.
Okay.
And I was more interested in the Burgundies.
Gotcha.
With the terroir, and it just seemed more connected to the earth. And there was also a lot less pomp and circumstance back then.
People don't get, Burgundy was very humble. Mm-hmm. Very, very humble. Probably till about the mid 2000s. Actually, it was still quasi humble. Then
now it's
nuts. It was farmers, hands in the dirt. A lot of people weren't even producing wine from their hectares. They were just going to the commune with it. So talk more about that. I like you said it just seemed more down to earth, terroir, connected to earth. I like that. Where you going with that?
And I was more attracted to Burgundy. We were drinking a lot of Bordeaux back then. I even still have a lot of it. I still have a decent amount of Chateau Gazin from the 60s and 70s that I collected way back then. And, what a lot of people don't realize is Gazin is the vineyard next to Petrus. There's Petrus, Gazin. There's a strip of land down the middle that they've been in lawsuits over for 200 years, as the French do. But I was always more attracted to the Burgundy. It seems like it tells a deeper, more interesting story. And that's what I was always interested in.
So when he cracked,
Sorry, Bordeaux people.
No, listen. I mean, it's when we talk about literally Burgundy is so small, and the plots of land are so small. But like I said, until the mid 2000s, they were still like affordable. Like Bourgognes are now $50-$60.
Yeah, not anymore. I mean, think about it. It's crazy. I mean, I pulled that 2000 Echezot. I think that wine retails for $4,000 right now.
Yeah.
And we had it for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
And the other wine I pulled for that dinner was a Bordeaux. It was a 1998 Chateau Palmer, Margaux.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my daughter's wines. My daughter was born in 98.
Gotcha.
So I have to ask her permission. She was there at the table. It was fine. But that was absolutely lovely. It really was.
Do you find in your experience, what do you think ages better, Bordeaux or Burgundy?
Oh, Bordeaux.
Yeah, you think it's because the nature of the grapes, they're more tannic and
It ages longer. Burgundy ages more interestingly.
Got it. So say more about that.
I can open some of these wines I have, like the Lafitte's from the 70s. I have the Gazin from 66. I have some Tonnelle from... But you can open those wines, and they're still drinking really, really well. Really well. The Burgundies tend to get a lot more variation as they get older. Yeah. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
So I wonder why people are so enamored with. I mean, I get it, but like why? Like I think there's every wine there is a sweet spot. Like there was an age where and it depends on the wine, but like it could be like from like. Like a Rhone shit for me, it's like 7 to 10 years. Like there's a pocket where it's still got the fruit, but it's got the the secondary stuff's coming through, blah blah. And the same with Burgundy. It's so delicate. But you can do. There's obviously bigger styles of Burgundy. Burgundy, not just California Pinot Noir. Burgundy is actually bigger, richer Burgundies people. Yeah. But yeah, like, do you ever go to these wine events and like? Everybody's searching for a good tasting note, and you're like, this shit is kicked. We should have drank this like X number of years ago.
Yeah, but you can learn so much from wine that is past its day, as long as it's not sherry. But if you're a young person learning about wine, they need to drink that wine.
No, they
drink
do.
That sherry wine.
No, they do.
They need to know what oxidation tastes like.
Right, exactly. Right. Then you just stop getting off your fucking natural wine kick you're on, man, and all this reductive shit. Someone else said that too. Like I think that's also what's I wouldn't say sad, but it's just timing in life. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of people, even a lot of certified somms, who haven't had the wines that like guys you and I have had just because access and cost now. Like it's just like
especially now. I mean, forget it.
Yeah, you're not. I
haven't bought wine in ages. Can't afford it.
Yeah. But like literally, like when I see people on social media like poo-pooing certain stuff, I'm like, you never even had it. Like I know you haven't had it. You haven't had it. Don't talk about that wine is and one interesting things I had. An opportunity to have lunch with Robert Haas, Vineyard Brands, legendary importer of Burgundy, also from Smilanook. And I remember this was at his property when he was doing the Rhone thing with the parents at Talbot Creek in California. But someone asked him, was like, the best wine he had, and it was like a pre-war World War II Burgundy, and this was going to be shit was 15% alcohol out of France, like so I know. So a lot of people.
I have some, but
yeah.
I got a 37.
Yeah.
I have some Romani Conti from the late 40s. Yeah. I've never opened it.
Yeah.
I got it in some exchange I did, and it's more a display bottle.
Yeah, what's the fill on it? Does it look like it might be?
A little large, but it's okay. I mean, where am I going to find something to top it off with?
No. I mean, Rudy, call Rudy, right? He's like, you just need a little bit of Côte d'Aron. Speaking of,
I even have bottles from the 70s from some of the not lesser, but
lesser known producers.
Yeah. And back then, when they had a bad vintage and they needed to fortify it, they just snap off a piece of the vine, stuff it in bottles.
Yeah.
And I've opened bottles that have vine branches in them.
Yeah. I mean, so like there's nothing new with full cluster, whole cluster guys. You need some structure in wine, you throw the sticks and stems in there. It's just what you do.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of it. Still, you could see it in the bottle. That's all.
Definitely.
It's like, that's
like
wild.
Pierre Angel from the 70s. He did that a little bit.
Have you ever had liquid gold, the Montrachet, DRC Montrachet?
I have. I don't have any more.
Oh, you had some. You actually
yeah.
had. Oh, shit.
Oh, we drank all that stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold on to that too long.
It's very hard. It's very hard to get hold of. I mean, I can't even imagine what they sell it for now.
Oh, I could look. It's ludicrous. Why, like for people don't, so Domaine Romani Conti is arguably the most well-known and prestigious estate in all of wine. You can make an argument for that.
I think it's a truth.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who really knows wine who would disagree with that. You would like. You'd just be hard pressed. It'd be someone who just is grandstanding, and
Let me show you a picture.
But they're known for their reds, but they make a Chardonnay, and it's like it's an ultimate unicorn wine. He's gonna show me. He's probably at some crazy vertical.
No, this is Thanksgiving. This is last week.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, damn. Chateau Certain Domaine.
That's 03.
Pomerol. You have an Essageau from, who is that? That's
Robert Arnault.
Yep, Arnault. And then obviously we know the DOC. And then that's the Palmer.
That's the Palmer. That was dinner last week.
Yeah, you were balling, man. Let me come to your house for Thanksgiving. Oh, that's sweet. No whites?
Not for dinner.
No? Did you do any bubbles before anything?
Yeah, we did. We shared dinner with another family, good friend, and we did. He's a crazy grower champagne guy.
Okay.
He's got a crazy cellar, and so we go to his house to do the grower champagne.
Gotcha. And so, like you said, you don't really buy any wine anymore. But has anything come on your radar, like out of Burgundy, like like PYCM or anything new, or someone new? Like the second generation somebody or third generation, there's a new young winemaker. You're like, you know what? I need to mess around and get some of this stuff.
I get sent a lot of stuff like, you should get this. This is great. I had this the other night. The last one I found, who now is mainstream guy, was I used to have a lot of Griveau.
Yeah.
That I bought 15, 20 years ago. And back then he was the new kid on the block, and people would just, dismiss him. But I drank most of that one. I still have a little bit left. I don't buy library wine anymore.
Okay.
It's just too expensive. I have some. I thought I had enough to last me the rest of my life. And I look around, I'm like, oh my God, I'm running out of wine.
That's funny.
Yeah. I buy house wine. I mean, we entertain a lot.
Yeah.
My wife and I, and I buy a lot of wine to drink.
Okay.
And Adrian helps me with a lot of it.
It's a good friend to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you gotta have, if you want to have a wine guy as a buddy, Adrian Chalk is like your friend to have as your wine guy.
I can attest to that.
So
don't let him come to your house because he'll drink all your wine.
He's a big boy. I could see him putting down a lot of wine.
I love him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a super nice. Yeah, and I met him through Ben Anaf, Tribeca Wine Company.
Oh yeah.
Was like, oh, you have Adrian Chalk on, and I was like, who's Adrian Chalk? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then as soon as Adrian was there, he's like, you gotta have Benjamin on. You gotta have this person on.
Yep.
You gotta have that person on. And and you're the second person that he recommended that has come on. So I'm very psyched. Love to entertain. That's awesome. So what are you doing now with your time? Like I read Grind. Are you still working on Grind?
No. I left the company about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. Damn. Okay.
I do a lot of consulting in the shared workspace arena. I've also been working on my not-for-profit stuff. I stepped down from the board presidency of Shelter Manor. A good friend of mine is running it now, and he's doing a better job than I did. And I'm still on the board. I'll help them any way I can. I'm also on the board of Hudson River Community Sailing here in New York City. Mm-hmm. It's an inner-city STEM program after school for charter school kids, and we take them after school. We do science, technology, engineering, math, and we teach them how to sail. We teach them things through sailing and geometry. Easy to teach geometry in a sailboat. Shapes, angles. We teach them boat building, boat maintenance. We send them to college. We have a middle school program based in a marina above the GW Bridge, and we have a high school program next to Chelsea Piers. Pier 66, there's a marina there that is HRCS. And we have 180 kids in the program, and I'm helping them deal with these kids, and it's my way of giving back. I know something about sailing. I know something about running not-for-profits. So I love it, and I've been on the board for a long time, and I will be on it, hopefully, if they'll have me for a long time.
That's awesome.
We've started a partnership with Shelter Island Yacht Club, and we now are bringing a few kids every summer from the city out to Shelter Island to sail in the junior sailing program at the club, and we house them with members, family members, and COVID put a little bit of a kibosh on things, but we had a great summer this year. We're just going to build the program over the next few years. I'm doing stuff like that, which feeds my soul, and it's all good.
I love it. All right, man. So, we just a couple more questions, and let you go. Thank you so much for coming in today. But this is a little fun thing I do. It's called Fuck, Marry, Kill. So I give you 3 grapes. You get to fuck one, you get to marry one, and you have to kill one off.
Okay, good. They're going to say like Angelina Jolie.
No, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. Although I have had some great answers, like people are like, oh yeah, I just got to fuck the shit out of some Chardonnay. All right, so that's actually too easy. So I wrote down what I thought I was going to ask you, but now I'm going to throw a little curveball. Actually, I'm going to totally curve you on this one. All right. I'm going to give you an easy one. So Pinot Noir, Riesling, and Chardonnay.
For each of those?
Those are your 3 grapes.
Okay.
Which one are you fucking? Which one are you marrying? Which one are you killing? Pinot.
Marrying Pinot.
Okay. See, I said Riesling or Chardonnay. See, he's in a pickle because he was talking about how Riesling runs the whole range.
Yeah. Riesling, fuck Riesling, and kill Chardonnay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair and tough. I just think I mean, I've had late harvest Chardonnay from like California, but like it doesn't. And I love white Burgundy, love it. But if you got to get rid of, if you're there and you got to have a white grape, Riesling just has the range where you can pair it with so many things. So I would have to.
And the other side of it is, so many horrible things have been done to Chardonnay.
Yeah.
That the good Chardonnay is few and far between.
It's true. It's true. That's why I I love finding, because listen, there's no money in. Well, let's put it this way. I didn't even pass the bar, so I didn't even do what you did and at least go out and make some money. So when every time I have a really good white berg, I'm like, that's what the big deal about Chardonnay is. When you have like a good white berg or like a $300 California Chardonnay made by Helen Turley or something, but that's Burgundy, and you're like, fuck, wow, yeah.
But hard to find that stuff. I mean, they've done horrible things to Chardonnay. They throw
oak chips.
Oak chips.
Oak flavored. And wait, it's even worse. I'm sure there's actual oak chips, but there's oak flavored chips. I'm sure that.
It's even worse.
I'm sure, because I'm from Jersey. IFF is right down internationally. I'm sure someone this is oak flavor. We could put it on any wood and throw it in wine.
And that's why I would kill it.
Yeah. No, I get it. That makes sense. And what would you say most memorable bottle you've had to date? Like just about you've obviously had some amazing wines, but I think that every real wine person they go back, oh my God, there's one time we had this bottle, and a lot has to do with who you're drinking with it, but like what was like your knock your socks off?
Well, I think you hit it. I think the real key to that question is who you're drinking it with. But put that aside. I don't know. There's so many. DRC Richebourgs, 90, even 90 Echezot. I think that might have even been a better bottle for me.
90 Echezot. So yeah, no. So actually, I was going to let you go, but now this should be easy for a guy like you. What are the wines that DRC makes, right? And then what do you see as the stylistic difference between Echezot, Grand Echezot?
Oh boy! That's a really hard question. I'm not even sure I can answer that one. Well, there's La Tâche Richebourg.
La Tâche Richebourg,
Grand Echezot.
Yep.
Echezot. There's another one.
I know. I don't know them all.
I'm blanking on that one. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm 61. I don't remember.
That's okay. Yeah,
okay. It'll come up in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, of course. Still haven't thought of that brother's name from Treme yet.
So you're worse than me.
I am, man.
The stylistic difference, though.
Okay, I'll take that back. So what is your favorite of all those wines? What's your favorite? Like, why is La Tâche so like the La Tâche just sounds sexy, and then Richebourg?
I don't know. Like I said, one of my favorite bottles ever was 90 Echezot. It was just so rich.
Got it.
And it was a great summer.
Yep.
And it's a legendary year. At the time, it was the best year in the history of Burgundy.
Yeah.
And I think it came through the best in Echezot. Not even Grand Echezot.
Mm-hmm.
Not Richebourg or La Tâche. It came through best in Echezot, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Oh my God, Benjamin, thank you so much for coming here. Tell people where they can be a part of what you're doing, for the associations you work with. I mean, the nonprofit. Yeah, where can you find out, be a part of what you're doing?
Well, for Hudson River Community Sailing, their website is hudsonsailing.org. Amazing, they do work with vets and with all sorts of sailing for people from all walks of life. It's a community sailing program. You can walk in and do it. They do adaptive sailing. It's an amazing organization. They need all the help they can get. And for Sylvester Manor, it's sylvestermanor.org. And the History and Heritage Program is just remarkable. I mean, it's just one of the most amazing things I've ever been involved in, what's going on there. And, we're really working on reclaiming graveyards right now, and we're working on rebuilding the house. And it's going to be awesome. And the thing I love about it is, it's an old slave plantation. Okay, that's what it is. And you go down south, and they become wedding venues. And they don't mention. It's like,
I know,
the slave never worked there.
I know.
Right?
What a beautiful house this is.
At Sylvester Manor, we are taking on that history. We're hitting it. We're taking it right in the face, and we're facing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is part of the history of this piece of land, and it, good and the bad, is everything that we're trying to deal with.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Thanks again for all the listeners out there. Don't forget to check out the show notes for each episode. That's where you'll find info on on the websites. I'll put the links to the organizations that Benjamin is affiliated with, and he's doing great work with. And until the next time, everybody, cheers to the Mavericks, the philosophers, deep thinkers, and all you wine drinkers out there. It's your boy MJ. Peace.